Hello and welcome to our presentation, Cognitive Dissonance Reduction Strategies and Animal Agriculture and Climate Change Connection. Bridget Jones and my name is Silje Kristiansen. We are both from the State University of New York, from the College of Environmental Science and Forestry. We are very happy to be here presenting to you today. Thank you for your interest in our presentation. It probably goes without saying that we are experiencing an urgent climate crisis. And we know that mitigation strategies need to be more widely implemented. There are actions that we can take. Many of them, however, involve behavioral change, some of them on an individual level. And maybe from a personal point of view, we know that behavioral change is not always the easiest. But this is an urgent situation and actions need to be taken. So from a social scientist perspective, we need to better understand behavioral change or inaction when people do not change their behavior. So today, Bridget Jones is going to present to you our theoretical background of this study. She's going to talk about our research questions and our proposed methods and goals. This is a work in progress, so we're looking forward to any feedback, any comments and questions that you might have.
Thank you, Silje. As Silje mentioned, I'll be going through the rest of our theoretical background and planned study. Although there are many different ways that human activity can impact the climate, we'll be focusing on animal agriculture in our study. And this is because animal agriculture has a significant contribution to global greenhouse gas emissions. The livestock industry in particular contributes 14.5% of total global emissions. Here in the United States, we have a particularly high level of animal product consumption, but relatively low public awareness of the connection between animal agriculture and climate change. Previous studies have indicated that dietary changes hold potential for reducing this footprint, in particular transitioning away from animal product-heavy diets, especially beef and red meat. Although raising awareness of the connection between animal agriculture and climate change alone is not sufficient to produce these kinds of behavioral changes, it is an important starting point. And for this reason, communication strategies can aid in encouraging people to make this transition. However, communication efforts are likely to be complicated by the effects of cognitive dissonance. This is a psychological discomfort produced by inconsistency in thoughts or actions. Many Americans are likely to experience cognitive dissonance on the connection between animal agriculture and climate change because of the opposing thoughts and actions we tend to hold on this topic. For example, research by the Yale Program on Climate Change Communication indicates that most Americans do care about climate change, but most Americans also prefer meals containing animal products. As awareness of the connection between animal agriculture and climate change grows, more people in the US are likely to experience cognitive dissonance because of this conflict. People experience cognitive dissonance through negative emotions such as guilt, and these emotions drive people to adopt dissonance reduction strategies to lessen this negative experience. These reduction strategies will be the focus of our study. In her 2017 overview of cognitive dissonance reduction, McGrath names 7 common reduction strategies, and I'll briefly go through them here. One way we can reduce dissonance when we experience it is by changing our attitudes. In the past, attitude change has been one of the most heavily explored reduction strategies. However, this focus on attitude change has led to a lack of exploration of the other strategies listed here, according to McGrath and according to a 2018 response paper by Vadas and Bran. A second reduction strategy is distraction and forgetting. In most places in the United States, we experience this reduction strategy on an almost daily basis. Previous research has indicated that the language we use to describe animal products, for example, saying beef rather than cow, enables us to forget that we're eating an animal. Third, trivialization and self-affirmation work together to reduce the experience of dissonance. By affirming our values and self-integrity, we can downplay the importance of any inconsistent thoughts and actions. One example of this is by saying that since I recycle, I don't have to also reduce my meat consumption. The denial of responsibility will be particularly important for us to examine in our study. This can occur when someone thinks that my actions can't make a difference to combating climate change, therefore I don't have to take action at all. Next, adding consonant cognitions occurs when we seek out information that supports our current viewpoints or actions, or look for external justification. Act rationalization happens when we perform new actions that are consistent with the previous actions we've already taken, thereby justifying them after the fact. Other studies have confirmed this reduction strategy and established that reduction strategies can actually lead to a recommitment to inconsistent behaviors. That was in a study by Bastian and Lofton in 2017. Finally, we can also reduce dissonance by changing our behavior. However, behavior change can be notoriously difficult to achieve and sometimes impossible, so this reduction strategy tends to be adopted less often than the others. In their 2017 study, Bastian and Lofton conducted an exploration of dissonance reduction in the meat paradox. And the meat paradox is the phenomenon of eating meat but being uncomfortable with causing harm and suffering to animals. Their study found that there are three main dissonance reduction strategies people employ in considering the meat paradox. First, the denial of harm, by downplaying the ability of animals to suffer and downgrading the intelligence of animals. Second, the denial of responsibility, through thinking that meat eating is a social norm or is necessary for human behavior. And third, protection of self-identity by downplaying the frequency that you eat meat, for example. While Bastian and Lofton explored this question from the perspective of ethics, we plan to look at this question through an environmental and a climate perspective. So this brings us to our research questions. Our first research question is, which reduction strategies are used to reduce the experience of cognitive dissonance related to animal agriculture's impact on the climate? This includes questions like, what reasons do people give for choosing to change their behavior by reducing or eliminating their animal product consumption? Also, in individuals who choose not to change their behavior, what other reduction strategies might be in play? Our second research question is, how does the experience of cognitive dissonance vary among individuals who choose different reduction strategies? What level of dissonance is experienced, and what emotions are aroused through the experience of dissonance? To explore these questions, we will conduct an initial qualitative study with a small sample group. We want to focus on individuals who already experience cognitive dissonance on this topic. This would be people who care about the environment, are aware of animal agriculture's impact on climate, and currently eat or have eaten in the past animal products. However, we also want to include individuals who may not be aware of animal agriculture's impact. This will give us the opportunity to explore what reduction strategies are adopted upon learning this information. We plan to use interviews to explore these questions. Earlier this year, Schrems and Upham conducted a study examining reduction strategies in sustainability scientists who take frequent flights for their research. They used interviews to explore this question, and similarly, interviews will allow us to understand the experience of dissonance and what reduction strategies people employ. In terms of future directions and next steps for our study, our initial qualitative study might provide the basis for a larger survey, particularly of a representative sample of the US population, to explore this issue on a wider scale. Ultimately, our broader goal for this study is to use the knowledge we develop of reduction strategies to direct communication efforts, encouraging the transition towards sustainable diets, in particular, transitioning away from animal product heavy diets. These results will have relevance for a wide range of actors, including researchers, but also policymakers, journalists, educators, and activists. We would absolutely appreciate any thoughts and feedback you have on our current proposed study. We have some specific questions we would like feedback on. First, what are some successful ways that you have found to disseminate results to a broad audience? Second, if you have any advice or experiences on recruiting for a specific sample, that would be also appreciated, since we are looking to recruit people who have specific experiences and opinions on climate change and animal product consumption. Of course, all other thoughts, questions, and ideas are very welcome. Thank you so much for your attention to our presentation. You can feel free to please get in contact with us by the contact information on this slide. We hope you enjoy the rest of the conference, and we look forward to your questions. Thank you again.